How's everyone doing today? Me, my back feels like my too. Wish I didn't have back pain. It's the worst. Hell yeah, it's the worst. Having back pain. Oh yeah, I'm back, Sean. I'm plugging my laptop because the charger. Yeah, how's it? Yeah. Good to see you again. Thank you, Sean. John Cena's last match is December 13th, and then he retires. Thank you for liking. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. Yeah, I'll be watching it. I've been watching WWE since I was 5, I believe. Oh, it hurts right here, the lower back. I was going to go get my MRI today, but I couldn't because my stomach was hurting. I postponed it to next week. So, it's at 410 next week. Yeah, he said he told it. Yeah, yeah, he's retiring. He said he's done. He told his audience once he couldn't do it no more, he was done. Yeah, he retiring next. He said. Yeah, he said once he couldn't do it, that's it. He's old. He's not old like, but 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 he told the people if he couldn't perform when he started, he was done. and I guess he couldn't perform no more. Which makes sense, because I would retire too if I couldn't wrestle and I couldn't do the things I couldn't do. Right now we're in WrestleMania 42 next year. You haven't watched wrestling in 12 years. It's a long time. Yeah, sad he passed away. The late great Hulk Hogan. Yep, he was a good wrestler. Just type on the Discord. I don't know. I hope he does, but I remember when what's her name, Karen Lee, used to mod for him. She used to put the on Discord. Because I used to get those all the time. Pop-ups. And John Cena just became Intercontinental Champion, Sean B. He is now considered a Grand Slam champion. Yo, I hope next, not this November, next November, Grand Theft Auto really comes out. Hope they don't delay it again, cause I really want to play it with you guys. You can watch me rob banks. It's gonna be like the real world, they say. See, you can do things you can imagine, like crimes you can do, like horrific things, like you don't even want to imagine. Grand Theft Auto, like things you can imagine, like things that I don't want to say on YouTube. Like murder is fine, like like the R one. That's why it's taking so long. I wouldn't do it. But there's crazy people out there that. Grand Theft Auto is an open world game, right? It's expected to be released Black Friday of 2026. But the way things is going, it might be released when the PlayStation 6 is released. Like a bundle. Or when the new Xbox comes out. As well, in 2027. Remember, they spent a lot of money on that. The game's like $3 billion they spent. Yeah. Yep. Let me look it up. It's GTA Open World. Is yeah, GTA is open world. Interesting. Now we know. Done. Everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe. It is an open world game. Yep. Soon it'll be. Soon the Epstein file. It says Epstein files to go public soon. I can't wait to review that shit here. Who do you think is in it? I already know 2 celebrities that I think is in it. They're already in jail, but you're right, B. I think you're right. I think so. I think that I think R. Kelly might be in it, and what Sean Diddy Combs is in it. That just gotta add more time to them. That's it. And talk about Sean Diddy Combs, it's possible that more charges will be filed against him. Coming from LA. It's not gonna be redacted. But if you want the files, you have to pay for it. It's not gonna be cheap. Like Public Information Act. Maybe. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, the victims. Don't forget to hit that like button. You don't really have privacy when you're a suspect in a case. You only have privacy when you're a victim. You fucking kidding me? Nancy Grace. Kohlberger contesting plea deal. How you doing, Cakesville?
Kohlberger is balking at paying for the victim's urns and other expenses.
I'm sorry, but $3,000 for the urns, is that the going rate these days for a life? If he's afforded these comforts of ramen, toiletries, different treats with his commissary, why should he get more comforts than the victims were ever afforded?
Kohlberger is contesting restitution. That was part of the deal. Then the deal is off. Breaking news tonight. Brian Kohlberger is contesting his plea deal, reneging on some of the orders in exchange for life over the death penalty. Can the case now go to trial amidst a lifetime Idaho 4 movie outrage? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
I like Nancy Grace. She's good.
Pled guilty to 4 murders. They were worse than murders. They were slaughters of 4 innocent college students, University of Idaho. Straight out to Annie Elise, host of Seriously, Annie. Kohlberger.
Don't forget to like that button. Hit that like button, everyone.
Major tenet of his plea deal. Under the law, Annie, that would be like me sentencing you to 20 years on armed robbery. And you have to elocute in court exactly what happened. We do the deal, and then you refuse to elocute. Okay, deal's off. What is he contesting? Paying for funeral expenses?
It seems to me like it's all about back to control. He doesn't seem to like any of the inconveniences that are happening now that he's behind bars, whether it's what he overhears the prisoners saying about him, the money that's pouring in and having to possibly use that toward restitution. I think the reality is now setting in for him, and there's starting to be some backpedaling happening.
It's my understanding to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter, that Koberger is balking at paying for the victim's earns and other expenses, right?
Exactly, Nancy. The shocking part of it is that in that plea deal, all of this was already negotiated. All of this was part of it so that he could avoid going to trial and avoid the needle or the gun. And yet now they're going back in and saying, well, we need to send this to the mathematicians at accounting at the state to determine whether or not he's able to pay for it because he's in prison for the rest of his life. And
I don't think so
that
either.
actually is something that he's not allowed to do. This plea bargain said he could not go back later and appeal it. He couldn't contest any aspect of it. And in so doing, Nancy, I wonder, why have they not already said, boom, over, you're going to trial?
Well, the judge seems to agree with you, Dave Mack. Listen to Hippler.
So you took advantage of the plea agreement to get the benefit of the bargain regarding the state's dropping of the death penalty. Why should you not be held to the plea agreement to pay the victims the costs of interning their children?
I mean, for Pete's sake, does Judge Hippler have to feed the prosecution with a silver spoon? Here's your way out of this disastrous plea deal. Out of all of your lies and your secret deals, Koberger is contesting restitution.
He's an
That
asshole.
was part of the deal. So, deal is off. I mean, can the judge make it any more clear? Listen to Hippler.
What's the point of the plea agreement on restitution if the defense is able to argue against the restitution called for in the plea agreement itself?
And it's not an issue, is it, to Annie Elise joining us from Seriously? Annie, he's got at least a 5-figure amount of money in his commissary account.
He could pay it.
It's unbelievable. First and foremost, the fact that people are sending an admitted quadruple murderer tens of thousands of dollars, then for him to be contesting payment, the restitution.
If he agreed to those terms.
I'm sorry, but $3,000 for the earns, is that the going rate these days for a life? It's just, if he's afforded these comforts of ramen, toiletries, different treats,
I wouldn't
with
give
his
him
commissary,
shit. I'll give him
why
a
should he
punch
get
in the
more
face.
comforts
That's what I
than
give him.
the victims were ever afforded?
Brian Koberger has just been ordered by the judge to fork over 30 grand from his slush fund. Fine. I'm glad you did that, Judge, to pay the victims' families. But the fact that Koberger has contested the deal, stop everything. Deals off. Joining me is a veteran trial lawyer who will tell you the truth. We may not like it, but the truth. Josh Kohlsrud is with us. He is a veteran criminal defense attorney, former U.S. attorney, founder of Kohlsrud Law Offices. Josh, I know that now, in this incarnation of yourself, you are a defense attorney. But isn't it true that when a defendant backs out of one of the tenets of the plea deal, the deal is off?
Yeah, so a plea agreement is a contract, and it has specific terms that need to be followed. And if those terms are breached, then the plea agreement can be undone, and this case can be set for trial. One of the ways that that could happen is a material breach and not paying restitution. So what does that mean? Well, Brian Koberger agreed to have a fair dealing with his finances, his money, where it was going. I'll tell you why, because the defendant, Brian Koberger, was levied a $250,000 fine. And that fine, the money from that can garnish his wages, and that money can be transferred into the victim compensation fund. So they should be able to still go after the money. And so what the prosecution is doing here, they're just being lazy. They're not confident in what they're saying. The judge is actually having to tell them and give them a roadmap out of this because honestly, they're incompetent. I have no idea why they decided to actually plead this case out when, if there was ever a death penalty
Well,
case.
that's a whole nother can of worms, Kohlsrud. You and me both. Koberger argued last week he was refusing and unable to pay $27,000 restitution to the families of students he butchered dead. The judge threw out his complaint of poverty, noting that he has gotten hundreds of dollars from supporters, totaling nearly $30,000. Now, he's being ordered to pay restitution. That's well and good. My point is, he contested the deal. He hasn't paid it. He's saying he doesn't want to pay it.
He shouldn't be allowed
that
to
he's
contest it.
unable to pay it, which is a lie, because I know about his 5 figures of money he's got in his commissary account. To me, that's welching on a deal. Joe Scott Morgan joining me, professor of forensics, Jacksonville State University. He's the author of Blood Beneath My Feet. He's the star of a hit podcast, which is incredible.
He shouldn't be allowed to
Bags
contest
with
it.
Joe Scott Morgan. On and on. But for our purposes, he is a veteran death investigator. Thousands of death scene investigations. Every COD.
Why is he
every
allowed to
MOD
contest it,
calls
though?
death manner of death. You can imagine. Why? Why should this have never been a sweet plea deal? Let's just start with that. Why is this so inflammatory that this was even allowed to be a plea? And he's ordered to pay the family's restitution after butchering their children, and now he's backing out of it. You know what? Fine. I'd be mad if you didn't. Let's go to trial. Why is this so wrong, Joe Scott?
Yeah, in the South, we have a term that says, let the hide come with the hair. My granddaddy used to say that all the time. If he feels froggy, let's jump. Let's go to trial, because now we have buckets and buckets of evidence that have been revealed. Now, I got to tell you, Nancy, give me a little rope here. I know I'm not an attorney. I understand that. But he's kind of got a point of leverage here. They just released a tranche of 2,400 documents of forensic evidence now. So if this thing did go to trial, everything has been revealed. And, you know, if you think about from the perspective of tainting the jury pool, perhaps, they've seen all of this stuff. We've got images that are floating around out there. Nancy, they have flown, and I'll say this directly to the prosecutor, they have flown this case into the side of the mountain from Jump Street. All right. They got nobody to blame but themselves. I was an advocate from the beginning to say that he, like you had mentioned a second ago, he should have allocated in court to everything that he did instead of sitting there and not saying a damn word other than, yes, I did it. You know, even BTK was compelled. Nancy, there are people sitting on death row right now in Idaho that have done far less butchery than he does. He's killed 4 people, slaughtered them, and now he's complaining about having to pay the family money. This is a gigantic mess.
Joe Scott Morgan, the nature of the murders was more akin to a butchering, a slaughtering.
Yep.
When I look at specifically, well, they're all horrible. Ethan had his jugular vein slashed, which means there was arterial bleeding, which means that coming from his neck, Ethan's neck, it was like a water sprinkler in the front yard, spurting his life's blood until he was dead. The disfiguration of Kaylee Gonsalves, where her face was stabbed between 20 and 30 times, could not even identify her. He stabbed her teeth out of her mouth.
Yep.
And more. The other 2, Maddie and Xana, horribly, horribly disfigured. Why is it that it is so insulting that now he says he can't pay restitution? That was part of the deal.
When you think about just Kaylee alone, Nancy, not only was she stabbed, she had blunt force trauma to her face. I actually believe that he took that K-bar knife and flipped it on the end of its handle. That was driven into her multiple times too. You've got these crushing injuries to her face. She's got severe maxillofacial damage. And then, you know, you take this robust knife blade and you drive it into her, and not just her, but these other victims as well. You've got Maddie laying there, and she's been butchered as well, Nancy. This would have been a bloodbath contained to the bed where they were killed. And we've also got bloody deposition that's laying all over the floor that appears to me, Nancy, that he was standing there and probably gazing at the bodies as blood is dripping and falling away freeform and striking the ground directly below his feet. You see this blood throughout the house, the deposition. That goes to this point that all of this information now has been revealed. So, where does the family turn at this point in time? All they're asking for is to show respect to their
Just pay the fucking fine.
He must pay.
I would
I
pay.
don't understand.
If I did
what
something
is
that
wrong
bad,
with
I
the
would
prosecutor
pay.
that's been asked many, many times. The judge is basically spoon feeding him with a silver spoon a way out of his disastrous plea deal. Listen to Hitler.
Isn't a reasonable interpretation of the plea agreement that the defendant will not contest the state's seeking of restitution that is outlined in the plea agreement? Otherwise, why would it need to be in the plea agreement? It seems to me it's the plea agreement, a reasonable interpretation is the defendant is agreeing to pay restitution for those items that are identified in the plea agreement, which includes
That's the least you can
victims'
do.
compensation.
Pay the fucking fines.
Well, pardon me, which includes in this case funeral expenses.
Holidays are just around the corner, and that means a lot of excitement and stress. If you, like many people right now, are relying on credit cards to cover the basic costs of life, then you're going to have gifts, travel. The debt is piling up. If you are a homeowner, think of reaching out to American Financing. Maybe you didn't before, because you don't want to give up a low mortgage rate. Well, American Financing has created the Smart Equity Loan. It's a smart way to pay off that debt without giving up a low mortgage rate. It's called HELOCs, Home Equity Line of Credit. It can fluctuate with the market. The Smart Equity Loan offers a fixed rate, so you will have one
He's cold-hearted, that's why.
monthly payment. Dial 866-888-0344. 866-888-0344. Or go online to americanfinancing.net/Nancy.
Yeah, I
And
remember that too.
good luck. Joining us tonight, two special guests, the parents of Kelly Gonsalves, Christy and Steve. Christy and Steve, thank you for being with us. First, listen to this.
So you took advantage of the plea agreement to get the benefit of the bargain regarding the state's dropping of the death penalty. Why should you not be held to the plea agreement to pay the victims the costs of interning their children?
Judge, I believe that our pleading was clear, that we understood that burns fell underneath a funeral cost, but that once we have a hearing on this matter, that doesn't eliminate the court's duty under 1953-04 to do the ability to pay analysis. And that's why.
Well, are you in violation of the plea agreement by arguing that your client shouldn't have to pay those?
And more from the judge.
What's the point of the plea agreement on restitution if the defense is able to argue against the restitution called for in the plea agreement itself?
At this hour, Kohberger has been contesting paying funeral expenses on the 4 students he murdered. That's bad enough. But here's the question. If he's reneging on the deal, then the deal is off. And this case can go to trial if the prosecutor has the backbone to do it, which I doubt. Straight out to Christy and Steve Gonsalves.
Yeah, go to trial,
us.
give him death penalty. That's it.
Christy, you got a shocking letter from the prosecutor. Christy, could you explain what the letter says?
Well, basically, it says that the travel expense part of the restitution cannot be paid via the defendant's restitution. So we can civilly sue him for it, which is just, we're exhausted, and now something, this is just hard.
Christy, can I paraphrase what you just said? You can sue Koberger. That's what the prosecution is offering the mother of a murdered girl. I'm not going to handle it, but you know what? You can go hire a lawyer, Christy, and you can pay the lawyer to sue Brian Koberger.
That's fucked up.
Let's take a look at this letter. It says, it says, "Dear gentleman," he can't even write your name.
He's an asshole.
Attached is a copy of the court's order on state's request for restitution. Copies of restitution orders for your client's funeral-related expenses. It tells you to look at footnote 1 at the bottom of page 1. We were not able to pursue travel expenses. What? We were not able to pursue. Steve Gonzalez, what does that mean? When the prosecutor writes you basically a form letter referring to you and your wife and others as "dear gentlemen," when I get something like that, I assume it's a bill collector. The state, in other words,
As the bill collector, that's why I laughed.
was not able to pursue your travel expenses where you had to leave your job and your home and drive 7 hours and hole up in a hotel to be in court. They were, quote, not able to pursue that from you. Koberger has 5 figures sitting in his commissary account. He will make a movie deal. It's allowed under the law in Idaho. He will write a book, but they did not pursue those expenses for you, Steve?
That's fucked up.
No, right off the get-go, we said that this deal, the plea deal could be done, but it has to be done correctly. And I didn't think he had the skill level to do it correctly. That's why we pretty much demanded that the attorneys generals get involved. And, you know, that was the best option we could have. But yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he's over his head. He's a boomer that's literally was trying to retire before this case even happened. And he's mentally retired. So we're the ones losing thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to his mistakes. And it's embarrassing for the state of Idaho. And I mean, we did everything for that courtroom so that they could get the resources and they could get the attention. And we just couldn't get him out of that room. And that really is what's hurting this case, is we have Thompson in there just dropping the ball repeatedly over and over and literally admitting it. Like, I totally screwed up. Not apologizing, but just saying, I screwed up. I mean, because it's clearly obvious, the whole world's watching. He can't get himself out of it. But we've been bringing attention to this from the very beginning, that there was, I mean, we talked about his office leaking information because we knew where the information was coming from. But nobody ever investigated it. Nobody even came to our family and said, how did you guys know that they were leaking information? Never even, nobody's interviewed us to this day.
Can I ask you how you know it was the prosecutor's office that was leaking the info? Remember, there was going to be a big investigation and then it just disappeared?
There's a couple different ways, and I won't get into it on an open microphone like this. But if you go and look how Ann knew to subpoena my lawyer and our family and what we were discussing, basically, if you reverse that back, you're going to figure out that somebody in that room told Ann that we were talking about one of the witnesses and we knew information about her. So she knew to subpoena our lawyer and the conversations that we were having with just his office. So how does Ann know? How does she even know that she should be requesting the communication
Emails.
from our personal lawyer to them?
What, Christy?
Emails. She was requesting all emails from our attorney, Shannon Gray, our family, regarding this witness.
Thank you, everyone that's here.
And it
It's
was like,
appreciated.
Okay.
And the only time you discussed that was with reps from the DA's office?
Exactly. Those are the only people we communicated with officially. And we didn't talk to anyone else about what we had heard. We had just heard it within probably 48 hours. So we
And
went to
we're
them
concerned
said, "Hey,
and went to them about it.
He says, and I'm quoting, as we previously submitted response to the court, we believe the crime victims compensation would be able to reimburse travel and accommodation expenses after the fact. Then we learned that wasn't correct. So they entered into a deal before they even knew whether you could get reimbursed for all that?
That's what it sounds like to me.
On a Sunday, after like talking to us on Friday. I mean, these guys didn't do much work at all, but now they're working on their Sundays to basically throw the case away.
He should just
it's
retire.
The last sentence in this letter makes me just want to chew a nail in half. Quote, at this point it appears there are no remaining outstanding legal issues in the criminal case other than ongoing review of previously sealed documents for possible public release. Sincerely, William W. Thompson Jr. No remaining issues.
I thought that was very weird.
No
I thought
condolences, no sympathy, no empathy, no anything. I mean,
No.
this is basically a form letter covering his rear end.
I was very surprised to see how it ended. When I read that last sentence too, I was like, wow, that's how we're going to end it. No further problems. If you guys want to get a civil lawyer, you could sue him on your own separately.
That prosecutor's ass.
But
Yeah.
we're
said,
gonna
I'm very
washing my
curious.
hands.
Why do you believe? What could the possible motivation be? I have a theory that someone in the prosecution's office that you were speaking with, and I can only assume that you went straight to the top, discussing issues with a trial witness. And then within hours, the defense attorney suddenly wants to subpoena your lawyer's documents about conversations regarding that witness. All I can think of is that the prosecution, Thompson, wanted to further along a plea deal by releasing potentially damning evidence on a witness.
That's what we thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you connect the dots, you can see
What do
what's
you mean
going
by
on.
that?
Because the information that we had for them was damning to BK. So certain things people want to leak to scare people, to intimidate them, to let them think that there's more going on than what is, or just letting them know that you've got some information that they're not completely privy to. So obviously something was going on, because she knew to ask for our communications, and it just makes no sense how she would know that. This whole case has just been so hard to deal with. I mean, and all we did was demand that whoever was in that courtroom, that they just did their best job every single day. And I remember telling Thompson, because I was warned that he wasn't the man who could get this job done. So I just said, hey, if you're checked out, if you want to retire, I get it. I respect you. You worked your whole life. You're 70-some years old. You don't want it. Step away. And we'll go find somebody. We'll go get someone. But he wanted the fame, but he didn't want the work.
Christy and Steve, the fact that Kohberger is contesting issues within the plea deal, that's not the banner.
Nope.
The important part of this, we know he's contesting paying restitution. Could that rescind, renege the plea deal? Because if he is backing out of conditions of the plea deal, then the deal is off. Have you considered this could take the case to trial if Kohberger himself is refusing to pay restitution as ordered in the plea deal?
Well, when you bring it up to our attention like that, with your knowledge of how how courtrooms run and what has happened, I would love for that to happen, but I feel like it's all just games, and none of it is taken serious. Like, oh, he doesn't want to pay his restitution. Slap, slap, slap. You can't do that. Pay your restitution. Move on. Not, you did a huge thing. You violated the plea deal. There's no, second chances. We're going to trial. Just all game. It's just all the defense game. I mean, it's just games all the way around. I just feel like it's just never ending. And now we're left with, well, you could civilly sue. And that's just so frustrating. It's like, we're out, a lot of money with everything. The last thing we want to do is sue and just be dragged into more and more court. We were just hoping that they could handle it the state could handle it on our behalf. So it would be nice to say you violated the plea deal, so we're going to trial.
Well, this is what it boils down to, Steve. Let's look at this. So I take a plea deal, 20 to serve. All right? And the defendant then goes, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do 20. Well, then the deal is off. Paying your restitution is an important part of that deal. And if Kohberger contests it, fine. I'd be mad if he didn't. Now let's go to trial. That is possible. He's reneging on the deal. That's on him. So what you'd have to do, what we would have to do, is get Thompson off this case. He can't try this case. No. Someone else, an independent prosecutor, would have to try it.
Yep. Which would be great.
I would love to see that. I would see that. And per that letter, he doesn't respect the investigation that Hitler's doing. He didn't say that was still going on. He said, we're done. We're over. He has no fear of Hitler's investigation because he holds all the cards. He has all the power. So I would love for an independent person to come in and look at it. And we're talking about this guy has been trying to control the narrative.
If it goes to trial, he will face a death penalty.
He even got in prison. He started writing up complaints and started doing formalities and saying, you're going to transfer me, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. We got to just put our foot down to these kind of psychopath killers and stop entertaining them and stop treating them with baby gloves. It's just disgusting. And we're doing it all the way up 3 years later. We're still entertaining. And
still doing it. Question, have either you or Christy reached out to the feds to take this case?
Steve has talked to them.
I have talked to the feds. It's been a while since I have, but they're the ones that told me Thompson wasn't even ready for this. They're like, don't go with this guy. This is not gonna end well. But they also at the same time told me, we're not gonna give you the death penalty either. So I tried to pick the lesser of the two evils, and I was saying, well, at least I get the death penalty in Idaho, and I had a lot of belief in the Idaho system. I was just let down by a prosecutor who just was already retired, and I didn't know it.
Steve and Christy Gonzalez joining us tonight on top of these revelations in this cold-blooded form letter from the prosecutor to them saying, yeah, you're not going to ever get your money back. That's insult to injury. The money, yeah, they're out a lot of money, thousands of dollars. They're out their daughter. They are out their daughter. Their daughter was horribly murdered. And we didn't know the truth about what happened to Kelly until after the secret plea deal.
You're right. That's if they don't go to trial. But if there's a trial, Wild Dog, the death penalty goes back on the table.
This is what their daughter Olivia has to say.
Hi, so that's not iconic. You're young, so maybe you don't know. But I've looked at the past stuff you've done, and I think you know. There is such a thing as defamation, which can be crushing to a career. Not that you really have one, but if you'd like one, maybe you should just think about it. Maybe you should just think about...
Does that make sense?
If Kaylee was your sister. Maybe you should just think about what you put out into the world, like dancing around in between scenes. Maybe you should think about the projects that you take on. Maybe you should think that if you lay with dogs, you might get fleas. So, yeah, maybe you should just...
Maybe. It depends who's the judge in the case.
Capable of it.
That's from @Olivia Gonzalez on TikTok. And ever since she first opened her mouth, I knew that she's a champion. What is she talking about, Christy?
Well, one of the actresses, I think it was the one portraying Kaylee, had a TikTok, and they were, her and Maddie were dressed up. They were bleeding, and they were dancing with the defendant. And the three of them were dancing and laughing and hooting and hollering and whatnot and carrying on. And she posted it on TikTok, something about, you know, loving her job or something. And it was like, we were just appalled. We were like, okay, have fun with your coworkers after work. But I mean, do you have to, you know, be dancing around and
You were seeing this from Haley Hansen on TikTok. Christy, when you discovered that this was going on, how did that make you feel? Because even this many years later, after my fiance was murdered, when people write about it and make negative comments about it, it never goes away, the pain from that, much less someone dancing around on TikTok in the middle of portraying Keely.
Now see what happens.
It's very hard. It makes you sick.
But
It
I
makes
think
you
they can still
literally
force
sick
him
your
to pay the
stomach. And
restitution.
there
I don't think
were
the trial's
others
gonna
where
happen. They're gonna force
he
him to
is
pay it.
dressed up, you know, with a lot of blood on her and stuff, and smiling and saying, you know, oh, I'm all, you know, ready for my scene.
He's gonna pay it.
It's disgusting and it hurts and it makes you ill that somebody would actually take a role to portray somebody that died in such a horrific way and make light of it and have fun doing it, you know, like not even somber or like, gosh, this is really hard, but no, you know, let's have a dance party after and let's make TikToks in between scenes. It's hard.
Steve Gonsalves, I know that you guys have much bigger issues than some actress, Haley Hansen, dancing around in fake blood during an outtake during a break from the movie. You have a lot more on your plate than that. But how did that strike you? Because I can see how upset Olivia is about it.
I look at the bigger picture, and it feels like every time I turn on the TV, I see some like shooting, killing, mass murder, and I think to myself, we have multiple.
Yeah, it looks like
problems,
Rich is
but
not
one of them
going live unless he
kids who
goes
think
live
they
at
can do
1.
TikTok dances after, you know, as being part of this messaging, as part of this narrative, as part of this corrective measure, if you want to say that's what they're trying to do. Because I want to refuse to think that it's entertainment, but clearly that organization doesn't understand what they're trying to represent, and they don't have a clear message, and they're not trying to help society get better and figure out, you know, when these people put out these red flags, that we do something about it. Part of that could be a documentation or a document on it and say, you know, these are the red flags, and if you see these things in your community, you know, put your foot down and make sure that somebody takes action. But when you see kids dancing and doing stuff like that, making light of the whole situation, you know, they do the exact same thing to somebody else's child and somebody else's school shooting, somebody else's, you know, tragedy. And you're like, we're just going to do this all over again if we don't learn from these people and from these cowards.
Guys, I think I'm gonna take a break. I'll be back later. Thank you for joining me.
Joining us tonight, Christy and Steve Gonsalves.
Thank you, Wild Dog. Thank you, Sean B. Thank you, everyone. If Rich decides to go live, I'll see you then. But if not, I'll see you in a couple hours. Thank you.